Thank you, Daniel, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Executive Committee. Can I just welcome one or two members who are here this morning? Evan, morning, Peter. I think they're the only members in the room. And then we have Councillor Aston, Councillor Donnelly, on three on online. So, welcome to you all. Can I just say right from the start, we're going to change the agenda slightly. We're going to take item 12 as the first item of business after public questions. So with that, can we do any apologies for absence? Don't think there are any. Yeah. Are you happy that I signed the minutes of the meeting on the 7th of October? Yeah, so nods around the room. Anybody got any declarations of interest, please? Okay, and can we move the exclusion of the public on paragraph 3 of item 12? I think we won't need to go into private session when we discuss it, but just in case we do, let's move that. Again, I can see nods around the room. Public questions are none. So that takes us straight away to item 12 then, please. And Michael, can I come to you, please, to introduce it?
Thank you, Lee. So this item covers our approach to commissioning, supporting housing and specifically around changes to how we procure both extra care today and how we'll procure both extra care and supported housing solutions in future. I'm going to just hand over very briefly to Mike Rudd, who's the lead officer on this, and then I'll say a few things at the end if that's okay.
Good. Thank you. Morning, everybody. I'm Mike Rudd. I'm head of supported housing for Health and Outward Services. So I lead on extra care, supported living, supported accommodation. Briefly, the report sets out, I think, the history of our extra care programme. We've been delivering extra care for 20 years across North Yorkshire, as people know. 28 schemes, over 1,500 units, the largest extra care programme anywhere in the country, which I'm rightly very proud of. The paper sets out what it will do over the next 20 years, taking the learning, that development of extra care, pushing out to a range of new different models of support accommodation, both for older people and crucially for us working age adults. So it sets out the rationale for that. It sets out the levels of demand, which are very significant all across the county for really different client groups. And then it also gives a new process for us taking that forward. We've worked under a closed framework for the last 10 years of 6 providers, which has worked very well for us, but it has limited us in some of the ways that we've been able to deliver supported accommodation, both in terms of the types of accommodation we've delivered. People are probably familiar with extra care and large blocks of accommodation, but also in terms of the numbers of providers that we've been able to work with. And whilst that hasn't necessarily limited us, it will do going forward. So the new model looks to deliver a wide range of support accommodation options, both of what you recognise as extra care today, but also extra care for people with more complex care needs, smaller schemes for rural communities, which is crucial as well, strategy, and also allows us to deliver individual accommodation for working age adults, for those needs, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, whatever it might be. It also, through the way that we will commission, allows us to work with a much broader range of providers. There are a large number of registered providers, registered social landlords all across the county that we will look to work with. The ambition is really significant, as you'll see on the paper. We are talking about the equivalent of an additional 16 extra care schemes on top of 28 we already have, adding around another 1,000 units of accommodation. And also around 800 units of supported accommodation for working age adults as well. So paper sets out in terms of the level of capital investment that we've got to put into that, but also the level of revenue benefit that we generate from housing. We know that extra care in particular has a really robust return on investment model in terms of reductions in residential care, reductions in the cost of domiciliary care as well. So that's the overview of where we are today.
And if I could just add to that, thank you, Mike. Mike leads a small team that, when I look at what extra care has delivered over 20 years, delivers massively for the council. And I find it interesting that I look at what this council has done, and most of it predates me. So I take no credit for the decisions that have been made by predecessors. This new framework, if it delivers what we think it will, I'd like to take the credit in 20 years' time when we look back, and Mike and his team should take the credit as well, that if this delivers what we need for the future, then we'll have delivered innovative solutions again. So it is really quite ambitious, and it will provide a framework to really achieve housing solutions for people in the greatest need in a flexible manner. So I've got no problems whatsoever in proposing this.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Can I come to Simon and then Richard?
Speak. I'll just speak. Yeah. I think Councillor Harrison is wrong. She should take the credit. Whoever's deserving of it. But no, I'd just like to say I was really, really pleased to read this report. I think it's building on the excellent programme that North Yorkshire's carried out over the last few years, developing extra care facilities, which are so much better for our residents than traditional care. It's so much better model. It ensures people's dignity and their independence for as long as possible. And speaking to somebody who saw the development of one in Skipton, which is behind the Catholic Church, for those who know where it is, and speaking weekly as I do when I go to church to residents there, and the pleasure that they have in living in that place, and the care that's given to them, security they have in living there. It's absolutely fantastic. So the model is great. But I think in discussions I've had with officers about particular sites, it has become clear that it isn't one size fits all. And so I'm absolutely thrilled by this, because I think it will allow a degree of flexibility and response to particular communities and particular situations that perhaps wasn't present earlier. So I think all of you should be very proud of coming up with this. I look forward to seeing some delivered. I won't mention any particular villages like Gargrave, because that would be wrong. But yeah, I recognise how this will align with what are your intentions and your strategies, and allow some things that previously weren't viable, weren't feasible, to be delivered. And I'm particularly keen, as you might imagine, on those who live in smallish rural communities, being able to stay in or near their communities and their families. And I think this provides the solution. So thank you. I'm delighted to support this.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Richard.
Not a lot to add to what Simon said. I think there's been a lack of flexibility in this policy that has meant some areas that I can think of that still have ageing populations but haven't been able to access the extra care scheme. So thank you for listening a bit. I've complained to Richard on quite a few occasions. Can I have one? No, you can't. You're in too small an area. I would just mention the Emerging Yorkshire Dales National Park local plan, which is coming out, and there are sites in there where now potentially under the new model there could be the ability to do something like this. Because we, like I said, the ageing population is across North Yorkshire, but in actual fact it's really extreme in some of the rural areas, and these also give the opportunity to free up some family homes as well, which means we can backfill into some of our villages. Just an aside, where my mother lives, it was next sort of like council estate, and so the house has been bought up, but there isn't anybody living there under the age of, I think it's now 77 in that area, and that's out in, you know, one of the more isolated villages in the Yorkshire Dales, you know, and that is going to become a real care issue for us going into the future. At the moment they're relatively self-sufficient, but anything we can do, and I think this is a great way of starting to move us in the right direction.
Thank you, Richard. Mark. Yeah,
Yarbough Subs, Richard. I've got one in my ward, which is Fernbank Court. And when I was a district councillor, I worked with North Yorkshire officers to get it in place. And I have to say, it's the best thing I've ever done in my ward. It's a fantastic facility. And every time one of the flats comes up for sale or rent, we are not short of people who want to move in there. And I was in there a couple of weeks ago delivering a leaflet and speaking to one or two residents and the manager, and it is so well received. People love living there. They've still got their freedom and they've got so many people around them to help them and support them. When I started reading this, I thought, oh my God, why are we changing it? By the time I got to the end, I could see why we are changing it, and I could not be more supportive. And I think the whole scheme is excellent and great to hear that North Yorkshire is right at the forefront of it. So very supportive, and thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Gareth.
Is this thing on? I just want to add to that, and I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, but there's a underlying lesson here for us all as local politicians, because when we first started on this exercise, well before Michael and Richard's time, there was opposition to it. I remember some of the opposition that could have blown up in thirst because we were, in effect, closing and replacing an elderly person's home that was cherished by the community. We knew it was the right thing to do. And by God, we've been proved right. But as I say, underneath it all, sometimes it is difficult politically to make changes. But as long as you're sure of your convictions, you shouldn't falter from it.
Anybody else want to comment? No? In which case, Michael, do you want to move the recommendations? I think you have lots of people are prepared to second.
Wonderful to hear so much support for it, and Mike and his team should be very pleased with the work that they do, and have no hesitation in proposing it.
And is that seconded, Simon? Thank you. Okay, can I have a quick show of hands, please? All those in favour? That is unanimous, as we expected. Thank you. Right, now let's go back to the agenda item at 6, please. Corporate property strategy, and Gareth, going to come to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm going to be very quick indeed, because I'm working on the assumption that members, colleagues will have read the paper. It's just for approval and or noting, I suppose, many of the bits within it, the detail. It's actually a restatement of what we've been performing under since the new local authority began, and it's a revised intent within our corporate property team. It details 4 principles with clearly defined ambitions, and with that, I'd also appoint members to what we have actually delivered thus far. The original business case for LGR stated potential savings, revenue savings I'm talking about, of about £1.9 million per year under Unitary. We have at the moment pipeline savings, or indeed delivered savings, of £3 million per annum in revenue terms. And in capital receipts, we've generated thus far £16 million, with hopefully more to come. So it's a blueprint, it's a strategic document underneath which we will work and in an attempt to achieve those ambitions. I've nothing more to add, but I don't know whether Gary wants to add to that.
Gary, please.
If I may briefly, Leader. So as Gareth says, this is a framework in place, but just a couple of other things. As you'll look at the document, you'll see there's vision statements in there, but there's also some clear actions as well, and they are both short and medium term. And thank you to Kerry and the property team, because there are plans behind that, so you will see that get firmed up. It also recognises the multiplicity of needs and opportunities that being a Unitary represents. So recognising that regeneration, community ownership, housing, there are a whole range of issues here, and we need to balance all of that in how we deal with our property estate. And finally, just to note that, and to thank the Asset Rationalisation Members Working Group and Corporate and Partnerships Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who've both been involved as in various gestation periods of this strategy. And the intention would have been, Kerry, is for us to take that back on a regular basis to corporate partnerships, report back on progress, and clearly we'll do that through the executive member. And it may be that periodically we need to bring something back to the executive, but there will be follow through, and you'll see there's performance indicators. And as Gareth was saying, we're seeing some of the benefits of that in the capital receipts and the revenue savings already. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Anybody want to make any comments or ask a question about this, Simon?
Really, just to make a comment, really, which is to say that this is very welcome indeed. I think it perhaps property, in its broader sense, has for me been one of the areas post local government reorganisation, which has presented some challenges, and I know part of that is the sheer scale of the property and the diverse nature of it that the new authority has inherited, and the many challenges there are in that. But I feel much more confident now seeing this strategy outlined and the key ambitions put into clear print, and the knowledge that the team is now properly headed and together. So I really do welcome this. You know, some of these things do take a long time, don't they? But you know, the point is we're right for the future now. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Anybody else? No? If not, then Gareth, you happy with to move the recommendation?
Probably move.
Okay, and I'll be happy with that recommendation. It's a simple one. No, hang on a minute. Councillor Hasler.
Hi, I just wanted to say I very much welcome the climate part of the policy, and that effectively we are now making climate change as business as usual, which was one of the things that we always wanted to do. So I very much welcome that, and I just thought I'd bring the attention to it and thank the authors of the paper for putting that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, I don't think we need a show of hands on this. We're all agreed we can approve the CPS. Okay, thank you. Let's move on then, please, to the next item. Mark, this will come to you.
Thanks very much, and I'm pleased to say I'm supported by Natasha, who's online today and has done a tremendous amount of work with the team to get us to where we are. I will just preface my remarks by saying we have received a letter this morning about Moorkiln outlining one of the landowners' refusal to put the land in the site, which is disappointing, but will not stop us going ahead. This has been in the pipeline for a number of years, but the DPD provides a framework to deliver a new settlement providing 3,000 homes, employment and facilities such as on-site education, health, retail, community facilities and a local centre. It's also served by the railway network and clearly the bus network as well, once the houses start to be built. The DPD includes policies to realise the vision to create a thriving new community. It has been years in the making with multiple rounds of consultation and extensive environmental appraisal. More recently, the DPD has been subject to rigorous examination in public conducted by an independent inspector. The inspector has concluded that the DPD provides an appropriate basis for the planning of Moorkiln, subject to a number of main modifications that are outlined in the report before us today. Adoption of the DPD today, and it goes to full council, will put the driving seat to deliver Moorkiln and ensure that all the planning applications positively contribute to the vision. I'm tremendously supportive of new settlements. They are the only way long term that we will deliver the housing numbers that we need. They also take some of the pressure off of villages and towns. But I just want to remind all members, both in the room and on the council, that these things will not happen overnight. So another malt kiln will not happen for many, many years to come. This malt kiln hasn't happened yet. We've still got some opposition to it from some parties. I believe it's a good site and will deliver much needed housing to North Yorkshire. It's well served and will be well served by both rail and bus and by roads. I commend it before you today. If you've got an easy question, I'll answer it. If it's a difficult question, Natasha's smiling, so we'll have the answer for you. But I'm strongly supportive of this. I believe new settlements are positive, but please, members, remember they do take years in planning before the first spade is put into the ground.
Thank you, Mark. I think it's an easy decision for us today because this is in effect just to refer it to full council where there will be further discussion. But Simon, you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thanks, Mark and team for bringing this to us. And as the leader says, we're not making a decision on it. We're simply deciding to refer it to full council. But I absolutely endorse what Mark has said. It's always been my view that one of the only ways that we can meet the requirements of North Yorkshire for new housing in the future is to look at new settlements. I think planning becomes a contentious issue, particularly when we are continually building on to existing settlements with limited infrastructure, limited room for improvement of things like highways and services. And so the idea that we can, as they did in the 18th century, as they did in the 19th century, and as they did in the post-war years, create new settlements that are purpose-built for contemporary living with the services built in there, the facilities, the sustainable nature of them because they are linked to mass public transport and so on is really the way forward. And it's a great regret that everything takes so long, because the problem for North Yorkshire now is whether we like it or not, most of us don't like it. The new housing targets that the government has given us are 4,200 houses a year. How are we going to meet that need? Maltkill, developed over the next 10, 15, 20 years, will deliver 3,000. So we need more than a Maltkill a year to meet the government's targets. And as I say, whatever we think of those targets, we're bound by it. And we can huff and puff as much as we like. So I welcome this. I'm very happy to support it going to full council. And I think, I'm sure Nick would say we do need to find easier ways of progressing new settlements, if that is what we believe is the solution to the problems that we face. But I know it's been an enormous amount of work. Formerly Harrogate Borough Council officers and North Yorkshire officers from men involved on either side of it. It just takes so much getting together. We have to find easier ways of delivering housing.
Thank you, Simon. Anybody else want to come in with comments today? No? If not, Mark, would you just like to move those recommendations?
We moved, yeah.
Assuming that we're all in favour of sending this to full council, well, we'll have further discussion. Yeah, okay. Let's move on then, please, to the future of the Scarborough Model Agreement. And Heather, can I come to you, please?
Thank you, Leader. This has been under discussion in the Scarborough area for a great many years now. In fact, the old SBC, one of its final acts, formed a liaison group where parish councils and clerks were encouraged to come and discuss the future of the sector. And I'm sure that would have been part of the agenda. The amount of money seems small, but it will impact quite a lot of different parishes for varying degrees. It's been in the train formally since October 23, and all the parishes were informed at that time in order to give them the extra time to actually adjust their precepts, as is their ability to do so. I know that under my chairmanship of the YLCA for Scarborough, this came up as an agenda item most meetings. So there has been hopefully no surprise in the conclusions of the report. I think I've been through, and I think there's about 6 or 7 different pieces of legislation which contribute to this decision. And I know that there have been some questions asked, but I am not an expert on burial ground, so I will have to maybe defer to someone who's got slightly more knowledge on that. But I'm happy to take questions. But I think there has been quite a good dialogue before this actual decision was taken. So hopefully the meeting later this week will just allow any further questions to be addressed, because I know there have been anomalies identified and that funding is continuing and is on a couple of matters into the next financial year in order to allow that dialogue to be concluded, hopefully.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Can we just record that I received an email from Councillor Moore and one from Councillor Donahue-Moncrief, which have been circulated to all the executive. So can I open it up for any discussion, any comments, please? Michelle, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm not going to go into everything I went into on the details of the email, because I accept some of the issues in it are very technical, and I suspect they are different from parish to parish. So I don't think we're going to resolve them here. So I suppose I'll put my cards on the table. As somebody who represents parishes from 2 different district councils, depending on what side of the fence you sit, you view this issue differently. If you're on the Scarborough Borough side, you see it one way. If you were on the Rydale side, you would look at it very differently and think, why were they getting those payments? Whereas the others are saying, well, we were getting those payments, why are they going away? Now, I did warn all of the parishes in the Old Scarborough Borough that they should assume the worst on this and they should plan accordingly. Thankfully, one did plan accordingly and did make provision within their precept, so they had a buffer on that. And they have also engaged with North Yorkshire, which is Humby Parish Council. I just want to thank the Deputy Clerk there for actually being proactive and engaging constructively with the council rather than waiting for things to happen. There is just one point I'd like to make on, I think there is the provision about where we're looking at parks and grounds and about a reassessment of those numbers. I'm supportive of a reassessment because I think we need to be clear what the criteria is so that both sides know what they're getting for their money and therefore can make and there's a clearer, I think, expectation. So if the public asks for X, Y, and Z, we're clear what the payments are for, because I think over the years that has sort of drifted so far that nobody can actually say exactly what the criteria or the standards are that we expect. Now, some parishes may wish to add to that. That is their choice to their precept. But can I ask that that process is pursued and finished as early as possible? The reason I say that is that I think one of the frustrations have been about this report was we were told that these numbers would come out in July and they've only come out now. And it's important that both sides are happy if they are going to get payments going forward, particularly around open spaces, that they are clear as to what is required and whether or not, and then they can make a decision as to whether or not that is something they want to move forward with. And that's all I'll leave it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Heather, would you like to come back?
Thank you, Leader. I think we are going to be pragmatic about this, Michelle. There is, like I say, still ongoing dialogue, and people may be wondering why the News Town Council Scarborough has not been included in part of this, but we understand that as a new body they haven't had the chance to have that dialogue consultation, so hopefully they will engage with us, and I would expect them to do so because it's for their own benefit, because we all like certainty, and I'd like to make sure that we do provide that certainty as soon as possible. So I will ask that is expedited. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, can I just make one brief point? I don't necessarily expect an answer to it. We can't have a situation where, and the impression I'm getting from listening to Scarborough Town Council at the moment is that everything is North Yorkshire's problem and they're going to sit on the sidelines expecting North Yorkshire to do everything, when other parishes and town councils are being realistic, pragmatic, even if it means taking the hit for raising a precept. We can't have a situation where Scarborough Town Council decides that it doesn't want to live in the real world, but everybody else has to, and then expects residents in those parishes to subsidise services in its town area that it could contribute to itself.
Okay, thank you for that point, Mr. Anybody else want to come in before we move to recommendations? Gareth?
Yeah, just not so much in response, but to concur with the principle of what Michelle has just said. That is very true. I don't think anybody could disagree with the principle of it, but I think, as Heather has highlighted, they do need a period of time to get their legs, so to speak, and mature. And I think any reasonable person would recognise that. How we move forward with that will be a matter over the next handful of years, I suspect. But the one thing's for sure, ripping down flags or raising flags on streets and all the rest of it is a sideshow to what they should be doing. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Gareth. Anybody else? If not, Heather, would you like to move the recommendations?
Yeah, to agree the SMA funding and to note the savings, and we will continue with engagement. So moved.
Okay, could I have a seconder for that, please? Yeah, Mark, thank you. And can we have a show of hands? Those in favour? Okay, again, that's you. Thank you for that. Let's move on then to item 9. Malcolm, can I come to you for the devolution of Knaresborough Market to Knaresborough Town Council, please?
Thank you, Leader, and really pleased to be introducing this item. This is actually quite a significant day for North Yorkshire Council, because this move, if it's approved, which I hope it will be, would be the first example of double devolution, which involves the responsibility of local council services being given to town and parish councils. So it's quite a significant step for this council. Take a little while to get there, but I'm really pleased that Knaresborough have effectively become trailblazers and embracing it. This is to help ensure grassroots democracy is serving local communities and taxpayers' money is being used as effectively as possible. And delivery, for me, of local services at a local level delivers a good service. I mean, I can only speak, my own market in Easonwold is run by the town council. It's run really well. They adapt to change. They bring new stalls in, and it's going from strength to strength. And I really support and hope that Knaresborough will go down the same route. By allowing Knaresborough Town Council to take over the responsibility, we are enabling the decisions that will benefit storeholders and the residents at a local level, which this is very much Knaresborough Market. I had the privilege to work in Knaresborough for 4 years, and I know how important the market is. It's been there for a lot of years. I'm sure Councillor Lacey will tell me how many, but it's a really significant part of the culture and the feel of Knaresborough. It's double devolution action, and I do hope that this will be the first of many similar ventures within the town and parish councils across the county. We've had a few false starts, but I think this is the first, and hopefully will be the precedent to many, many more coming for approval by the council. The town council would be responsible for all costs associated with operating the market, but in turn will receive all income with no ongoing costs for the local authority. The Town Council is eager to work closely with North Yorkshire Council throughout the transfer process, which is really important, and we will support them with that. And we are committed to a smooth and successful transition. And full credit to Knaresborough Town Council for being trailblazers on this project. And I think this is indeed a very significant day. And I would certainly recommend that we propose that we approve this recommendations.
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. I'll open it up for discussion, but can I just first of all congratulate Knaresborough Town Council for taking this step. I think one thing we've learned in this is that double devolution is as complicated as we thought it might be. And I think it is also right that we've taken the time to actually get it right. So anybody else want to come in? Peter, please.
Thank you. Just to note two things. One, clearly spoke to the area committee, which I was chair and very supportive, with some comments similar to your comments, Carl, in terms of the challenges faced. But I also want to pay tribute to, the Clan Council has done a lot of work, but other community groups, the Chamber and a wide range of public have been in between sort of flabbergasted and then enthusiastic and back and forth, have worked with the Town Council to the extent that they can. I just want to assure the group that the whole of the town is behind this move, and hope you can learn from using Weldon following their footsteps. So thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Peter. Michael.
Just really to echo what you said there, if you, on the face of it, transferring a market, first of all, it's exactly the kind of thing you would expect all parties to want to happen, and it's wonderful that it is happening. But if you read the report, you do see, to get it right, it is complex and it takes time. And taking time to get something right so that it's set up for the future to operate successfully, well, it's right to spend that time, and we shouldn't be too critical of ourselves for these things taking time. The right outcome is to do the transfer. Both parties will be happy, and Knaresborough can then ensure that this market continues to thrive and hopefully improve.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Anybody else? Simon, and I'll go with you.
Just to say, I'm very disappointed that nobody's come up with the date of the charter for Knaresborough market. I think it's arrogant Knaresborough members should be ashamed of themselves. It's a really good move. For those who perhaps are watching and haven't read the report, it's incredibly complicated. Effectively, we can't transfer the charter, and so there's a sort of rather more complicated operating model, which does question some aspects of why this country still has ownership and property rights that date back to the 12th century, or perhaps we should update them. But anyway, that's for another day. There's a debate for full council.
Could we leave that for another day? Anybody else want to come in before I come back to Mark? Right. Well,
Yeah,
back to you, and then
just a very quick point. It has been a two-way street. I also want to pay credit to our officers as well, who've worked extremely hard on this, engaging with the town council. So credit to the team at North Yorkshire as well for getting this one over the line.
So if there's nobody else indicating, would you like to move the recommendations?
Yes, certainly. I'll move them on block if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yep.
The three recommendations as listed, I propose they be approved.
Okay. Seconded by Simon. Again, let's have a show of hands. Yep. Thank you again. Unanimous. We'll move on then, please, to item 10, the report and recommendations of the IRP, the Independent Remuneration Panel. This is for us to send to the full council with any observations that we might have. Harry, this always goes to full council's mind. Did you want to say anything by way of introduction?
Yeah, please, just for the benefit of the public rather than members, but as members know, the council has an independent remuneration panel which is set up under statutory provisions, which ensures that there's a truly independent group of people that review members' allowances before it goes to full council. For next year, they've recommended as a panel, they've weighed up the increasing demands on the public purse, but also the increasing workload as well on members. And what they've suggested is that there should be a 3.6% increase in line with CPI across the board for members' basic and special responsibility allowances. So the details are in the report. We publish it and advertise the report to show that it's independent and members of the public can write and have their views, but it's before you today on its way to full council.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody want to make any comments? Well,
I do think when you appoint an independent panel, it's poor form to then disagree with what they say. And I'm not about to, by the way. But also what I don't like to see at this council, but it's happened for the last couple of years, is it goes to full council and then one or two people want to make some politics out of it by suggesting we have a lower rate or whatever. And I don't think that should be the case going forward, Chairman. So I accept it en bloc. I spoke to the panel. I suggested we should be paid a bit less, actually. So I was probably in a minority of one, but there you are. But I don't think it should be a political football. And when I was on Selby Council, we had a system where the independent panel met once every 4 years, and whatever they gave us was then tied to the pay of officers and any rises that they had, so that it didn't come back year after year to become a political football. And given that we're about to enter, well, about 18 months away from a new council, I was wondering if we could ask them that they look at it next year and that the new council then be tied to whatever the allowance is. And that is then tied either to officers' pay or to RPI or to CPI. I'm really open to whatever one you wanted to use. But I think that we should know, those who want to stand in 27 should know what the basic allowance is and should know that it's then tied to RPI, CPI officers, whatever it is, to the national system, so that it doesn't come back every year and we have a political fight about it. Now, I don't know if I'll get support across the room today, but I would simply ask the panel, accept the panel's recommendations, but ask that they do that next year.
Somebody that's advocated that in principle for a decade or more to avoid the political shenanigans that goes on or has gone on lately rather than historically, I must add. I'm fully supportive of Mark's view on this. Whether we link it to CPI, RPI or officers' pay, I would be happy to leave the panel to do. But I think more importantly, just as importantly, in an ideal world, we wouldn't be approving, well, we don't set, we approve our own remuneration. In effect, I strongly believe it'd have been easier for us if it was on a nationally agreed pay scale or whatever. But we're not in that place. That's something that will have to be decided elsewhere. But somebody that signs their consent to nominations in February or March 2027 should know what the foundations are and what the reward or remuneration, call it what you want, is going to be. Because at the moment, they're going in blind. If there is any change to it, upwards or downwards, and in the past there's been 1 or 2 occasions where there's been a reduction in special responsibility allowances, for example, is not fair on those taking a decision whether they stand for public office or not. And on that basis, I'm happy to second the recommendation going to full council in line with what Mark's suggesting.
Okay. But there's anybody in the room who's going to disagree with that proposal? Not just the room. Barry, could you just help me out with the technical aspect of the practicality of actually making that observation to the panel?
Yeah, so the panel, the beauty of having an independent panel is they're truly independent. So any recommendations from the executive or full council is just fed to the panel. It's for the panel to determine. That it would be fair to say that the panel has looked previously with regards to the concept of just setting it for 4 years, because the statute does allow you to do that, to set it for 4 years and just index link it. Previously, they've stated that actually, because we're a new council and lots of positions, particularly special responsibility allowances, were being determined and we didn't have much evidence. So we're comfortable setting it for 4 years because they wanted to review it year on year to see what those roles and responsibilities were like. However, if there's a recommendation with the executive to feed that back in for the next year's panel, then you can move that as a resolution and to feed that back in.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else want to make any comment on this? So we agree that's what we're going to do. We're going to accept the recommendation, but make this comment to the panel. We have to do that through the full council. So it has to be filtered into the recommendation from today.
You've got a choice. You can make the recommendation from the executive, so you can make the recommendation to the panel from the executive and just have the report going to full council without that recommendation, or you could have the recommendation going to full council. Because you're not the decision to
go to full council. It's more than just the 10 votes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so can we build the words into that?
Yeah.
Okay, so can we agree on that then? Yeah, thank you. And moving on, we go to proposed changes to the constitution. You should say thank you to the Constitutional Working Party for the amount of work that they're doing on a frequent basis. about keeping the constitution up to date. Heather, do you want to introduce it? Do you want me to go to Barry to make any comments first?
Thank you, Chair. So again, because we're a new council, we're reviewing our constitution. The cross-party working group, the Constitution Working Group, made a number of recommendations which are before you within the report. If I could just talk broad headings, and the details are in the report. There's one set of changes which are just general housekeeping, and I, indeed, as the monitoring officer, have made some minor changes which I'm just reporting back, which are typing mistakes and administrative changes. The next substantial change is just clarifications on the council petition scheme. The council has a petition scheme. On review, the recommendations before you is to clarify what those petitions can be about to make sure that it is effective and it relates to business of the council. So the change is just clarifying that petitions should only be considered when they are things that the council has the responsibility for. So sorry to Councillor Myers who wants to change the property law. That wouldn't be something that we'd have responsible for. That would be for government. We won't accept a petition on that basis. It has to affect the council's area. A petition following the council petition scheme shouldn't be about planning and licensing applications because there's a separate process for that. So we did receive a petition on those areas and we just refer it to the planning application or the licensing application process. So members of the public can still do a petition, but it wouldn't follow our process of going to the area committee or executive or full council. Also, when a petition is received as a result of a public consultation that the council is carrying out, that won't go through this petition procedure. It'll be a response to the consultation. If there are things that are required by law, then we wouldn't consider that through a petition. And also any matters that have been dealt with by the council for the past 6 months, we wouldn't follow the council's petition scheme. But everything else will then go and follow the normal process. And it clarifies again that if someone's not happy with how we dealt with their petition, it will go through the corporate complaint process. The next areas of change is to do with specific type of petition, which is parking restriction petitions. These are very local petitions with regards to obviously parking in someone's area. Currently, they come to the executive, but as a new council with more responsibilities and as executive meetings are getting busier and busier, the Constitution Working Party looked at an alternative way of dealing with those petitions. And their recommendation was to have it referred to the executive member for highways and transportation in consultation with the relevant division member. There is statutory guidance that you have to have regard to, which talks about not making the decision by one member, and the Constitution Working Party had a look at that and stated that they were happy to deviate from that guidance by consulting the relevant division councillor or councillors to ensure that more than one councillor's views were taken on board. Then the next series of changes were to do with council motions. What the proposal is that motions, when being submitted, should consider key implications under a number of areas. So if someone moving a motion, they should consider the financial implications, the legal implications, equalities and diversity implications, and climate change as well. So if the matter was to be debated at full council could comply with its equality duties and make sure that things were lawful, had a consideration of the climate change and also of the financial implications as well. The next area of change is just clarification on timescales for when motions to full council should be submitted, which would be 9 clear days. There's a clarification on timing of reserve date for budgets to make sure that the reserve date for the budget happens after the budget and not before. Very sensible. Who's responsible for this constitution? The next point was clarification on when members raise points of order or personal clarification and ensuring that the chair has ultimate discretion with regards to that, just to stop a situation where the councillors are standing up, potentially stopping the free flow of debate by making points of order or personal clarifications. If it is going to be a point of order, they need to state what part of the point of order it they're raising. And the final two areas of update is just updating the protocol and recordings. And finally, it's kind of mirroring the rules that apply to civil servants, which allows discretion to pay for legal costs when an employee who's doing their job diligently faces legal proceedings. So this is not about individuals facing personal legal proceedings. These are proceedings where somebody might be doing their job and face litigation, not in the name of the council, but in the name of the individual, and it allows the council to cover those costs as well. Sorry, I should say the final bit was just the annual review of the procurement rules, which is a long technical review with regards to the procurement rules to make sure that they're updated and comply with the new legislation.
Thank you, Barry. Heather, did you want to add to anything?
Thank you for the opportunity. I'll be brief. No, it is. I think the constitutional working group is quite important in that we're able to actually jump onto problems quite quickly, and hopefully now the people have got clarity. So at the next full council, we won't have the Jack in the Box syndrome again. So I hope that people. We do have good cross-party participation. Some people might not agree with everything, but we do tend to have be in the middle quite a lot. So I'm happy with that. And I just think it's a way of showing progress very quickly. So hopefully people understand that they can have questions raised and they're sorted out quite quickly by the next council. So we'll hopefully agree this at the November meeting, and then we'll be able to put it into practice after that. Thank you.
Good. Anybody got any comments or questions even on this? If not, can we again thank the Constitutional Working Party, not second guess what their recommendations are, and just approve them. Yeah, seeing nods around the table.
Sorry, Chair, just I did my summary. I wanted to go through my full main report. No, just to clarify one particular point. Paragraph C is for the leader to take as opposed to full council. So the rest is to refer it to full council, but paragraph C is for your decision.
Okay. I'm happy to take that decision. Right. Okay, let's move on then. Done item 12. Item 13, Richard. Use of HWRCs, please.
Yeah, they call them North Yorkshire Household Waste Recycling Centres. And this basically is to clarify the North Yorkshire bit, which is that we're only going to do it for North Yorkshire residents, and the household bit that we believe that 12 trips a year for anybody in the commercial vehicles ample for one household. And so that's basically where we're at. There is a saving with this because there is a cost to disposing of waste, either through landfill or whatever else in the taxes there. So we believe that we ought to be providing this service free of charge for North Yorkshire residents to households only. And anybody else is going to have to pay for the service. So that's where we're at with this. So I'll move the recommendations.
Okay. Anybody got any questions or comments? Simon first, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I do support this. I think it's really important to put it in the context of why we've looked at this. And funny enough, it was something that back in old Credon District Council days, we were sort of a bit concerned about Skype and TIP, as we like to call it then, but okay, waste and recycling centres. Because there's always that problem with residents from outside North Yorkshire and commercial enterprises from outside North Yorkshire, where they already have these charges in West Yorkshire and in Middlesbrough and so on, coming into North Yorkshire because it's free, and that's a cost to our residents. It's not fair. I know that the team have raised with them some concerns about the accessibility to people who aren't online and the problems of perhaps some more vulnerable residents, less mobile residents having to use members of their family who don't live in North Yorkshire and how that would work. And I take comfort from the fact the team are saying basically we'll be flexible about that. We do understand there'll be problems. We don't expect everybody to be online. There are other ways of doing this. So with that in mind, I'm very supportive of it. I think we're here for our residents. We're not here to subsidise those who live in Bradford and in Middlesbrough. And we're actually applying the same charges, the same protocols that they are outside North Yorkshire by and large. So it's fair.
A couple of points. Totally agree with Simon. And if people want to go more than 12 times a year, then I want to know exactly what they're up to. I think our household waste recycling centres are very well run. And the last time I went to Selby, the sign up said that we were recycling just over 90% of household waste. a couple of weekends ago, I went to Manchester to dismantle a bed for my son, which we took to the recycling centre in Manchester. We proudly said they're recycling 53% of their household waste. So Andy Burnham nil, North Yorkshire 1.
Okay, anybody else wants to come in? Heather, please.
Thank you. I actually have a SEMA tip. I prefer the old word in my division, and it's amazing how many vehicles manage to make it across the border from East Riding. So I fully support this, but I would ask, can we make sure that we have a charity pass in effect, which allowed people who work with local charities to maybe visit more often? So can we please make sure that we have some provision for that kind of user? Thank
Richard,
you.
do you want to come back on it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the scheme, but there are people on the door at all these, or on the gate, should we say, at all these sites. So I think there's going to be flexibility there. If somebody came with the 13th load, but had a really good reason why they've come with the 13th load, our staff are there. So this isn't, we've been accused of anti-van as a van driver for a lot of years. I never found that the household waste recycling centres were ever particularly anti-van. In actual fact, they're probably too kind to van drivers, and people were bringing stuff that they shouldn't have been bringing. So I do think that just putting a bit of a clamp down on this is going to make it fairer for all our residents across the piece. And I think things like that, the teams are there. If somebody's got an issue, please get hold of us, and we can talk these things through with them. It's not a total, you can't do this.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Anybody else? If not, Richard, would you like to move the recommendations?
Happy to move the recommendations.
Secondly, Simon, thank you. And as this is a new registration scheme, so let's have a show of hands. Those in favour? Yeah, unanimous. Thank you. And now move on to the first of two residents' parking petitions. Martin, can I come to you for both of them, but the Back Dragon Avenue one first, please?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, item 14. These are on the agenda today because, as we've just discussed, under the Constitution as it stands, they reach the threshold to come to the executive for a decision. We've just heard at item 11 that is a change moving forward. My apology, the timeline does go back a little while to prior to my tenure, so I might just refer to my director just to give any specific in relation to the Back Dragon one, that other than it reached the threshold, we've considered it and we don't support it at this stage.
Just a couple of points, if I may. I mean, the first that applies to both these reports is that whilst they meet the threshold for the petition, they don't meet the threshold for the residents' parking scheme, which requires over 50% of residents in the identified areas supportive of the scheme. So it gets over the first hurdle, if you like, but not the second. In relation to this one, I think the primary reason that the residents are concerned about this relates to the activities of commercial garage and the concerns around them using that street primarily, I suppose, as an extension of the garage and carrying out repairs and other things on there. Those are matters which can be controlled under separate legislation and don't really need a residents' parking scheme. So we've considered the request, but even if it had met the threshold, it's not something we'd feel able to support for the reasons given. Thank you, Chair.
Anything else to add then?
No, happy to move.
Okay. So anybody got any comments on item 14, the Back Dragon Avenue petition? No? Okay, so do you want to move that recommendation?
Yeah, happy to move the recommendation as listed, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, are we all happy with that? See nods? Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to 15 then, Malcolm, please.
Yeah, it's very similar to the previous item. It's obviously before us today because it met the threshold to come here. I don't know if Carl wants to give any background information to this one.
I mean, this one is more around inappropriate parking and enforcement. And I think our view on this one is, again, it didn't meet the threshold, but essentially we can use our parking powers to deal with some of the issues that are raised rather than look to introduce a residents' parking scheme in this area. And we think that's a more appropriate use. So that's covered under sections 3.4 and 3.5 of the report. And for the reasons given in there, which is not a scheme that we would support.
Anybody got any comments? Are we happy to go with the recommendation then? Peter?
A general comment that I made by email, and I've emailed separately to Malcolm, and it may need some clarification in terms of when I've tackled this type of issue with residents in Harrogate, it's been unclear as to exactly what the process has been. We believe, on behalf of the residents in Harrogate, in a separate issue, we've met the thresholds in terms of the affected residents. It's taken 2.5 years. It's been to the area committee, which is within delegated powers and responsibility of the area committee, but we don't seem to be progressing. So I have asked Malcolm just to review. Malcolm's visited the locations, he's familiar with it, and thank you for that. So it's really just a case, and I picked up briefly that it might, constitution might affect it as well. This is a group of residents who are very, not over complex, but specific challenge in terms of conflicting arrangements with disparate residents, parking and acceptable access in an area adjacent to the overflow parking. Overnight. So it is a justified concern that we really haven't managed to get in. So thank you for following up separately. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to respond to?
Yeah, just obviously I am familiar with it, with the issue. I mean, obviously we've now got the new procedures under the constitutional change, so we can take that forward, and we will deal with that under the new process. So I'll give you that assurance.
Okay, so again, can we agree? Michael?
I just wanted to say both this item and the previous one that we've already voted on, at the end of the day, when you read the concerns that are being expressed that's prompting the petition, there are other things that can be done. And I understand frustration when there's existing legislation that could be used to alleviate the pressure and it's not being used, that people look for other things, but that's not the answer, is it? It's if that existing legislation needs to be used, then let's use it. Simple as that. And that's the case.
Okay. So can we agree the recommendation then, please? I'm seeing nods. Yeah. Item 16. Heather, is there anything for us to note on the forward plan?
Thank you. The next meeting at Skipton has quite a lot which will cover the entire county, such as the enforcement plan and other items, but it's got a couple of big items at Scarborough, which obviously we need to try and make sure we give that some good thoughts. And I just would once again, I know this is something I've said often, it would be nice to be able to get some more local items. So I would ask that people maybe are advised of when our next away day executive is, so that we could try and ensure that we engage with items that are more parochial at that point. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'd emphasise that point on you as well. Thank you. Simon, please.
The leisure investment strategy is on that day. And obviously that does in part concern Skipton. It's very good news for Skipton. So I think, we will have a productive discussion on that. And then the only other great benefit of being in Skipton, the fact that it is one of North Yorkshire's most beautiful market towns, is that we get better coffee, leader.
One of the most, Simon, not the most.
Need my passport.
Straight off the road.
Thank you for that contribution.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Valuable as
You could have been very scouted.
Mark, would you just like to give us a quick update now, please, on the cliff lift in Whitby and why we've moved it from discussion today to a later date?
Yes, and I know Councillor Harrison is desperate to hear about this. So we did some work on the Whitby cliff lift, and we had an independent company look at it as well as our own officers, and both found significant water ingress, which would clearly make the whole future of the cliff lift under debate. A local member asked Anglo American to have a look at the cliff lift, which they did free of charge. Unfortunately, they did it just towards the end of the biggest drought we've had in this country for probably 100 years. And they found there was no water in there at the time, which I think had there been, Yorkshire Water would have been tapping into it. They've been aware. So what we have done is we have invited Anglo American to go back and have a look in the new year, which they have agreed to do. And they did accept that it was an unfortunate time, shall we say, to be looking for water ingress. So in the new year, Anglo American are going to go back, their engineers, to have a look at the cliff lift. We will have a report from them, and it will be unfair to make a decision until such time as we have that report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't think there's any other items of any urgency for today. And our next meeting has already been flagged up. It's in Skipton and Bellevue Mills, and hopefully we will have some items to discuss which are relevant to that locality. So with that, can I close the meeting today? Can I thank you all for your attendances and your contributions? That's it.